Considering that introduction, the question I'm going to preempt everyone in the audience that came to ask this question. It is my privilege. I like to tell people this is my house. You come in here, I do anything I want. Not really. But people only, I think yesterday on our program, spoke to the whole situation of Jamaicans living in the diaspora being able to vote in elections at home. Your various positions on that issue.
I can't speak of the party position now because I didn't canvass that before I arrived, but I think it is clear that the time has come. Jamaica, in many constituencies this year, for the first time, be using improved, enhanced technology to conduct the elections. In my constituency, for example, no one will be able to vote unless they go through an electronic process. And I think if we are able to demonstrate that adequately in these elections, we can now look to see how we can involve the wider Jamaican societies across the globe in direct voting using the technology. I think it is something that we now need to discuss, and I think a forum like this should be mandating me to go back to push.
Probably get a couple more questions from the audience later on, Mr. Paulwell, about that. Mr. Chung, your response to that question?
Our position in the Labour Party is that as a forward thinker myself, and speaking for the party, I do not see why, and members of the party don't see why we can't have people overseas voting. If you live in the United States and you are serving in Timbuktu, for God's sake, you are able to vote, and the system is there. The question is, are we willing now to put it in place? But it is there.
I'm sure the audience will have a couple more questions about that. We distributed a fact sheet on the Jamaican Diaspora outside, and on the back there was an article written by an attorney at Nunez Schofield about who is entitled to vote in terms of the Constitution and some of the acts that relate to people being able to vote. I encourage you to get a copy of it so we can figure out exactly how to possibly institute. One of the questions that came up is that I want to ask directly from the audience. Constitutional reform. There's been a lot of talk about different things to change in the Constitution. When can we begin a process of looking at the Constitution and seeing what needs to change and what needs to stay? Mr. Chung, I'll start with you. What's the position of the Jamaica Labour Party on that issue?
I think everybody knows where the Jamaica Labour Party leadership stands on that. I think everybody knows where the JLP stands on constitutional reform, the limiting of a prime minister to 2 terms, and the many other things, that the fixed election dates and so on. That's only a part of it, though. But yes, it is time. And when would it begin? See, I want to tell you that the number 7 is the number of completion, meaning it's over. It's finished. So now on the 28th is a new era. So it would begin after the 28th of August.
Mr. Paulwell.
Mr. Chung has his cheering squad inside here, all right.
So I here to tell you
but there's no way you can achieve constitutional reform in Jamaica without both parties accepting constitutional reform, because we have many provisions in our constitution that are enshrined, and it will require, in some cases, 2/3 majority of both houses. In some cases, it will require a referendum. What we've been trying to achieve, without success because of lack of cooperation, is some basic things. Firstly, to get our head of state to be reposed in Jamaica, to get a Republican system of government in place so that we can no longer have the Queen as our head of state. And we have not been able to get that accomplished for as many years we have been in government.
So that's going to start on August 28th, too?
Well, it should have happened long ago. Should have happened long ago, but you can't achieve it without cooperation.
Thank you, Mr. Paulwell. A couple more questions from the media, and we'll go straight to the audience because we're going to Mr. Davis, South Florida Cleaner Extra. Can you, I'm sure you came with some questions there. Let me make sure your microphone is on. It's coming. Okay.
Technology, embarrassing to have technology phase with the technology minister here. Mr. Paul, you're saying you don't see any reason to change.
To change?
To continue forward, keep the same path to move forward.
Ah,
right.
Perfect, yes.
The spokesman, Mr. Chung, is saying we need change. I don't think anybody here really accepts that as a platform to vote on. I think we'd like to hear a lot more details of what you're going to continue and how you're going to improve on what you're going to continue. And from Mr. Chung, what you're going to change. What needs to be changed, but not to be changed because it was JLP's project, PMP's project.
Thank you, Mr. Davis.
I think that is an excellent question, because we have been bombarded with this thing about change. And if you don't put some substance to it, the Jamaican people are going to reject you, as I expect that they will. We have, and in fact, before the evening is out, I'm going to circulate to everybody inside here a document that sets out our achievements, and we're not going to be relying solely on the achievements going forward. But more importantly, it sets out a program that will take us from where we are, where we have achieved stability in the economy, we have achieved growth, but we need greater growth. We need to create more employment. We need to ensure that our school systems perform better. This, you will see later, sets a pathway that will achieve that. It's on that basis that we are presenting ourselves to the electorate to say to us, it is not time to change that course. It is for us now to continue and to build on what we've achieved so that our people can end up being prosperous.
Thank you, Mr. Paulwell. Mr. Chung.
When I watched and I don't have a cheering gallery here, so I need to correct that.
Mr. Chung, if you could bring the mic a little bit closer to you so the audience can hear in the back, I would appreciate it.
I tell you, I do better standing. But anyway.
Later on in closing remarks, Mr. Chung, we will allow you to leave the table.
If I remember, our national debt is serviced by 60% of Jamaica's revenue. Correct me if I'm wrong. In other words, if you have $100, you have to spend $60 out of $100 to service the money and debt that you borrow. Now, I don't know if there's any person in here that can function on a 40% of your money earned. And this is what some people are seeking to do. It just don't work. We have a national debt, I understand, of over $1 trillion, or just about. How do you grow an economy? Well, you go back, you take a good look at what you have. And the question was asked as to where we go from there, right? The whole of the East awaits those persons and countries that have the guts and the vision to go there and negotiate and get for their countries. We are only 2.7 million people. State of Florida, 17 million people. And that stuff, if it happens in Florida, it is minuscule. The wealthiest overseas Caribbean people, do you know who they are? Jamaicans. Something is released in us when we come here. Something. The 203 jobs. We're shutting down factories from 8 to 5.
Wrap up, Mr. Chung, please, if you could.
And we continue here. We see factories run from 3 to 11 and from 11 to 7. Round the clock. Sustainable development. Give us the stuff that's dropping off the table. That's all we're saying. That is all we're saying. Bring back dignity to women. And you know what is surprising?
Mr. Chung, we're on strict rules and guidelines. I'm asking you, begging you to wrap it up.
That is all I have to say on that.
Thank you. We'll come back to you. Give him my hand. Following the rules. I want to go straight to the audience, and I want to ask you to, same rules. A minute question, questions, issues. Who wants to be the first person to ask a question? We're coming to you. Mr. Lloyd.